Let's look at this example of self-reflection by a teacher. In her reflective practice, she says, "I love to look back at my writing and sometimes find it quite strange. Haha." She is laughing at it. She thinks what she had written in the past was not really her text. She finds it strange. She does not find any familiarity and any association with that type of writing. So, it is a good reflective practice to look back at our work which we have done in the past. This is a letter that she looked at, and then she thought, this cannot be written by her to her friend because the words are so strange. She would have never thought of using the words now if she was writing that letter. So sometimes it happens that when we write and look at that work later, for about 5 years later or 10 years later, we think this is not the type of writing that I should have done. So this is an example of a letter. But you can have an example of writing a comment in your student's record register or in your lesson planner where you are writing the aims and targets of your lesson, your learning outcomes, or your students' behaviors. So many a times when you would look back at that, you may find this writing is not mine, because how could have I written such a such comment? Not necessarily every time would be the same experience. There would be times when you would look at your writing that you have done before, maybe 10 years ago or 5 years ago or 3 years ago, and then you say, oh, what a wonderful thing I wrote. Because maybe the comment you wrote about your student proved to be true, and what you said became just the result or the learning outcome as expected by you. Similarly, if you are looking at some lesson plan which you made a few years ago, and you find that that material is very useful that you wrote before, you can always add that material to your present lesson plan. Similarly, if you think that you had written something which does not have a purpose or a meaning to the lesson that you are going to teach, then you can just delete it out of the lesson plan. There is no harm in rethinking, in reflecting, and looking back at the things that you have done earlier, especially because the writing form is always available. You always have your notes and diaries with you. So it is a good reflective practice to look at the writings that you have done. The spoken words are usually not available for us to look back on, only and until we have recorded our spoken language, or we have read something and that has been recorded. Only then we would come to know about our oral skills. But the writing is a practice in which you can always go back to look at and make changes, rethink, reflect, find it whether it was useful many years ago when you used it, did it have a meaning, or will it have a meaning if you apply it at the recent day application. Therefore, it is a good practice to keep your diaries and notes with you, especially those teachers who keep on repeating the same lesson planning that they have used many years ago. They can always add or delete to the same lesson plan and make it better, more practical and applicable to the present situation according to the requirement of the present day. Also, there can be some readings done which you have done earlier, and you would find that when you read that particular reading earlier, the context for you was different. And now when you are rereading it, the context has totally changed for you, or the concept understood by you is totally different.